Hi there.
Hi.
Do you want to go to it?
Yep.
And wait, let me just get this organized here. Go on.
Hi. I had an accident back in 1993.
Well, first of all,
Okay,
who
first of
are
all.
you?
First of all, my name is Tish.
And you are an actual human being,
I'm actually a human being. I'm
and you
not a
live
robot.
and you live
And
in
I
the
live
Midwest.
in Elgin, Illinois.
Okay. Okay. Great. Go ahead.
Okay. And I had an accident back in 1993, a car accident. And it came from a close encounter with a deer that didn't work out so good. I went off the side of a mountain in Utah. And when I landed, I broke my neck at C4-5. I was told I had a C4-5 spinal cord injury when I woke up in the trauma center in Utah. And immediately my mind went to, well, this can't be happening to me, and that I was going to find my way out of it one way or another. And I would not believe the diagnoses of the doctors who gave you all the negative diagnoses and not anything positive about the injury whatsoever, including I would probably have 5 years to live with the injury that I had, and that I definitely would not be breathing on my own. So this is where I started. I flew back to Chicago. I went to the Rehab Institute of Chicago, where there was more of what I couldn't do, and my mind would not buy it, and I refused to buy it for anybody else either. And they saw me as somebody who was in denial. But it wasn't denial. I just want to accept the negative things that were coming at me because I couldn't. I was in a fight for my life and a fight for my future because I was 27 years old at the time and I had a future ahead of me and I wanted to live that future to the fullest. So what happened was I started looking once I got out of rehab. I started looking for alternative therapies and I found many, and I went through a food detox that cleansed my body, and I did that out in California. And I looked for other therapists that would be able to coach me and mentor me into becoming well. And one of the doctors that I work with, that was a naturopath who led me to vitamin therapies, also led me on a path out to Las Vegas to go to a doctor for proliferation therapy. And I did that for my joints. And while I was working at that, I got a call from my uncle, and he said that I needed to do something called craniosacral therapy. I did not know anything about what that was. So I decided to go and investigate, and I asked the doctor I was working with in Milwaukee with the proliferation therapy if he knew of anybody that did such work. And he said he knew Raj. And so he gave me his number before I left, and I called Raj and I started working with him. And again, it was over about 20 years ago. And since that day, things have changed for me. Obviously, I am breathing on my own, and that came off in the hospital. So that was an act of God. And then I was, and then after that, I continued with Raj because what I had was a bunch of therapies. Imagine hitting your head when you're going down a mountain. And so I had dysfunction in my head. It was protruding forward. I had other things in my skeletal structure that were off. Obviously, my whole spinal cord was off. So I was in a position where I really needed help. And I was very weak at the time. And I remember when he started working on me, that I would come out energized and he would come out exhausted. And as time went by, things changed and I didn't have headaches anymore. And I felt more and more energized. I felt my body coming together. And I started working with the therapist, and she had me up with much help. She was an out of the box therapist, and she had me up walking. I believe I could not have done this without the alternative therapies I had been seeking, because there was no help from the outside issues of physical therapy except for those that I sought on my own. So I continued with Raj, and at one point he even wanted me to stop doing therapy with him because he thought we had gone as far as we could, and I refused to do that. So I continue to work with him, and I continue. And what happens is sometimes my body gets all off and out of kilter because people are moving me around. I have hit my head several times. Once on an airplane flying forward, I hit my head on a computer screen in front of me. I've been on roller coasters. I've done. I've been up in the air on a hang glider. I've done many, many, many things that everybody said there was no way I could do. I, uh, within that period of time, I got married, two amazing stepchildren. I have a very, very full life. I work as a life coach, and all this would not be possible in my mind if God had not led me to these amazing therapists that I have found. And Raj, especially, who has been consistent with me in working and putting my body back together when it's out of alignment. I have no pain in my body and any joints in my body. And I know that that's from that because there are many people in this situation and they are on many, many drugs for pain and everything else, and I am not. I take 2 drugs for spasms, and that is it. So my spasms get less when I work with him, and many other amazing things that I can't think of right now. But I have been able to stand when he transfers me to get on his board. I would have never been able to do that before. He lifts me, and with the lifts that I get and the breathing that I do that he has taught me, it lifts my body up, and I absolutely help all of my caregivers with my body because it is a lot easier for them to move me now because I have some type of solidification in my body of muscles and joints and everything else, and it seems to all come together. And I believe that this therapy alone is one of the best I could possibly do. It keeps my mind clear. I used to have a lot of noise in my head, and I still get there every so often, but it's much, much less. And when after he works with me, there is nothing but peace and focus. And it gives me more focus so I can do the things I need to do in my business and in my personal life. And I am so blessed to have this amazing life, and I'm so blessed to have Raj as a therapist.
Well, Tish, that's great. That's very articulate, and that's wonderful. Uh, we see each other every 2 weeks,
Yes.
and in between, how do you take care of yourself? How do you take care of yourself every day?
Well, one of the things I do is, well, I have much help in the morning to get me up and get me showered and do everything else. But one of the things I do on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays is my husband puts me on a 45-degree board that Raj made for me, so that in between times when I get a little bit off in my body and my tailbone goes out, I lay on that board and I get back in alignment. My head gets back in alignment. I can tell because I'll start to get a little bit noise in my head, or I'll start to get a little bit of pain from a headache or something of the sort, and then I lay down on that and it's gone. And it's because he's been working with me for so long that the fluids in my body just are more easily go back into alignment. My bones easily go back into alignment because it has a memory, a muscle memory and a body memory of what it needs to do when it lays on that board.
Uh, yes, but you also do some specific thing when you lie on the board. You do something with your mind, do you not?
Yes, I go down my spine. I start with the cervical vertebrae and I go straight down into the
When you say that you go down with your mind,
mm-hmm.
are you how? What do you mean? How does that work?
Well, I go by vertebrae. I go C1, C2, and if there is any type of movement that I feel, then I stay there and I hold that vertebrae. So if it's C3, my legs move, I stop there because you've taught me to focus there, and then wait for the next little release, and I hold that area at that point, and it seems to release that area.
That's very good. How long? How long are your sessions with? Well, our sessions are about an hour and 15 minutes, hour and a half, like that. How long do you spend with yourself on that board?
Oh, well, that can be anywhere. My husband puts me on there, and I go down. And as I go down, I sometimes knock myself out. So he kind of leaves me there until I come back. And by what I mean by not, what I knock myself out is I go into a deeper sleep, a deep sleep almost. And it helps to, in that deepness, it helps me to, or my body to do what it's supposed to do on that board, also, I believe.
Uh, Thanks. This is great. If just one more thing, if I can
Yes.
talk about, is we're talking about the body, and we're talking about your mind, and what exactly is the key thing that you have been doing with your mind to get over this unbelievable thing that happened to you 20 years ago?
Well, I pray. That's my form of. I go to that center in me. That the the Christ in me is what I call it. Other people call it intuition. Other people call it the universe. But that's what I call. And I go there and I pray and I go to that place of healing that is deep inside of me, and that is just that place inside of each of us that is nothing but pure love.
Well, thanks. You're great.